Mike Johnson's response to the Supreme Court striking down Donald Trump's tariffs yesterday was at best. He didn't really condemn it. He didn't really praise it. Mike Johnson doesn't really know where he should be because, of course, Johnson is Donald Trump's puppet, but the puppet of an increasingly weak man. And what Johnson is focused on, even more than appeasing Donald Trump, is keeping his caucus happy. And they were furious with the tariffs, and they are only making it worse after Donald Trump has suffered such a brutal loss, revolting once again and further stripping Donald Trump of his powers. And it all begins with what Gavin Newsom had to say last night, what the world is recognizing, a weak Donald Trump that is only pushing Republicans to save themselves. I think what he had to say right here perfectly summarizes why Mike Johnson and the MAGA Congress just made the latest move to revolt.
He's a weak president. And that weakness is on display globally now as well, as the rest of the world is starting to turn against Trump and Trumpism. And the only card he had left was these tariffs. And that's why, it's exactly why he was so aggressive today, because he knows it. He's got nothing else going on. His entire economic policy is mass deportations. That's beginning to unravel because of the people in Minneapolis. His economic policies were obviously aided and abetted by these tariffs. By the way, Soben was his personal dealings. And don't forget for a second, these tariff policies are connected to the great grift, this great self-dealing, this crony capitalism we're seeing around the globe. You saw it as he moved back on tariff policy in Vietnam, as he got a business deal done there with the golf course and the waiver of a lot of environmental rules. Same thing in the UAE, same thing in Saudi Arabia. So that the self-dealing is a big part of the story in what happened today at the Supreme Court.
We talked about this extensively, that Donald Trump is really reckoning with his own mortality right now. His focus on tariffs was because of how weak he feels both at home and abroad. The fixation on a ballroom or putting his name on the Kennedy Center, the Board of Peace, hell, the arch that he wants to build that is all about trying to cement himself in stone, knowing that his legacy is really already set and that there's nothing he can do about it. Donald Trump is worried about how weak he is, and that'll be his perception going forward. The worst president of our lifetime, the most failed president of our lifetime, hell, of our lifetime in American history. That is what Donald Trump understands is becoming and has always been his legacy. And Republicans certainly aren't helping, because as Donald Trump is begging them to save him, they're rejoicing. Don Bacon said this yesterday before we get to the latest minute news from the full Republican caucus about how they're responding to Donald Trump's loss to make it worse.
Well, the Constitution was defended today, the checks and balances of the branches of government. I thought Neil Gorsuch wrote a brilliant ruling. It's really conservative philosophy that he espoused. I mean, Milton Friedman and Adam Smith and the founders and what they intended. And he made it clear, any tariff has to be approved by Congress. That is what he wrote, and that's the majority position. The president today kept quoting the dissenting view, which is not law. Neil Gorsuch's position is law. And so bottom line is, any tariff that the president wants to do has to go through Congress and be approved. That's the bottom line from this ruling, and I agree with that. That's what the founders wanted, and that's what Republicans should want. We have long held this view. Just because President Trump disagrees shouldn't change what conservatives believe in.
Don Bacon not only praised the Supreme Court decision, but in a later clip, which I just want to summarize because it's a little long, he talked about how no longer do Republicans, or certainly himself, let's remember, Don Bacon is a guy who threatened to resign after Donald Trump and Steve Witkoff were giving the Russians notes on how to cater to Trump, on how to really make the best argument for him, threatened to resign. This is a guy who's consistently voted against Donald Trump. He has objected to a lot of his failed economic policy. But Don Bacon not only praised the decision by the Supreme Court, but he also talked about how there's this kind of shifting sentiment that a good Republican is no. Also, did you see yesterday that Donald Trump said he wanted to be a good boy? That was weird. But Don Bacon said that the sentiment that a good Republican is one that jumps whenever Donald Trump asks is slowly slipping away. I think these people are starting to realize that Donald Trump cannot save them. And also that the collective action that they have is a force that Donald Trump cannot attack and get away with. He tried in Indiana, it didn't work. He tried with the Supreme Court, it didn't work. And it's why Republicans are holding tough, or at least against this policy for the first time ever, and going even further to humiliate Donald Trump after his loss. GOP lawmakers not willing to bail Trump out on tariffs report. Any hope that Donald Trump may have had that the Republican majority in the House would agree to hand him their power to enact tariffs after his humiliating 6-3 defeat at the Supreme Court on Friday should be put aside, according to the National Review, a conservative outlet. The furious president's claim that he doesn't need Congress may be an acknowledgement that he knows he does not have the Republican caucus members on his side. side, many of whom are reportedly thrilled that the nation's highest court has put the president in his place. According to the report, if there is a second reconciliation bill in the offing, handing over congressional authority on tariffs will be nowhere to be found. National Review's Audrey Fahlberg reported several Republicans responded to Friday's ruling by praising the court for acknowledging Congress's right to authority over the taxing power, and it has been clear to Republican leadership for months that including tariff language in a second reconciliation bill will be unpopular with a significant segment of their caucus. As the report notes, it would be a non-starter for almost half of the caucus based on a strategy get-together last year. In one strategy meeting with conservative advocacy groups late last year, for example, Johnson's staffers predicted that a tariff codification proposal could lose 20 to 30% of the House GOP caucus if it were included in a second reconciliation bill, a person familiar with the matter told National Review. Fahlberg wrote, one Johnson aide chimed in with an even more bearish prediction, pegging that figure as closer to 40%. The report adds that it's not clear whether Trump had seen the reactions, from multiple congressional Republicans in both chambers praising the court's ruling, adding, attempting to whip the votes for tariff legislation would carry major political risk for the second-term president. Republicans know how unpopular this would be, and I think Democrats seizing on the messaging opportunity, as Governor Newsom is, as Governor Pritzker is, as we'll get to in a moment, to call for a tariff refund is maybe the best messaging opportunity that we have had throughout the entire presidency. Not only because we get to talk about the fact that Donald Trump has been illegally taxing your groceries, your gas, every purchase that you make for the past a year almost now? We're almost a Liberation Day anniversary. Donald Trump has been taxing everything you purchase illegally. But what I think is more damning and a more important argument to be made is the fact that this administration either, one, as Scott Bessent alluded to, doesn't want Americans to see that money in the smug, assholey way he always talks about things. He said, well, I don't think the American people are going to see that billions. It's like, okay, Scott, you dickhead, shut the fuck up, please. Nobody wants to hear from you. But one, the money's not going to us. And two, the corporations are already pushing for it. And do you think Donald Trump is going to help us out, me and you, or do you think he's going to give an opportunity to give some money to some corporations? I think it's probably going to be two. And if it's not two, if it's a secret third thing, it is Donald Trump giving that money to himself or whatever pet project, $1 billion donated to the ballroom, more money for ICE. I don't know, but Donald Trump will use that money however he pleases. So Democrats in the Congress need to move forward with calling for legislation to make sure that the ruling that the Supreme Court just gave, that only taxation power lies with the Congress, then the money taxed also should only be appropriated by the Congress, not Donald Trump. He is not the one who gets to make decisions about this money. Democrats need to either push for a full refund or an investment in healthcare subsidies, something that is beneficial to the people who were hurt. It's all of us. I think rich people did pretty fine. We are not allowing corporations to jack up prices and then get a bailout for jacking up prices. That's ridiculous. And it's exactly what J.B. Pritzker was talking about right here.
Well, it was unhinged. I mean, watching his press conference today, where he just, as you pointed out, I mean, he just fell apart about this and attacked Supreme Court justices and could not understand why he could not wield this power that he believes is his, that has now been found unconstitutional. So, and what does he do? He turns to yet another statute that allows tariffs in certain circumstances, and now he intends to reimpose these tariffs that are truly devastating small businesses. They're hurting families across my state, and as you saw, $1,700 per family. These are working families, $1,700. Remember, this is the guy who lowered taxes on the wealthiest people, and he raised taxes, the tariff taxes, on the middle class, the working class, and frankly, people, just everyday folks going to the grocery store or just buying goods. Let me just tell you one other thing. The farmers, these are folks mostly who voted for Donald Trump. He has devastated, for example, the soybean farmers in my state. As a result of his tariffs and the way he has activated trade wars, we no longer are selling soybeans to the Far East. And that's billions of dollars of sales for family farmers across the state of Illinois. So the $1,700 doesn't even talk about the small businesses and the farmers that are hurt by what he was doing and now wants to reimpose.
No question about it. And I mean, I showed this invoice earlier. You basically said Illinois wants their money back, $1,700 per family. We already know that a lot of businesses who have paid the tariffs have already hired lawyers to try to sue the government to get the money back. So explain to us, in your view, kind of how this could happen, what should happen, and how could this happen? How could people out there watching get any money recouped?
Well, if he actually gave a darn about working families, he would just institute the rebates that people should get. These refund checks should just come. That's what he should do. He won't do it because he actually doesn't care about working families, and he thinks he's right. And so he's going to hold on to that money. And the result of that is that think about the small business that just wants to get their money back. It's going to take them, it may be years that they're in court trying to get this money back. Meanwhile, he's reimposing tariffs, so it's getting worse for people.
This is a messaging layup for Democrats, and we need to take advantage of it. I talked about the post that Graham Plattner made yesterday. Right away, of course, Governor Newsom was the first to hop in and demand that refund. And speaking of which, I've got some big news coming up with Governor Newsom soon, so I'm just going to put that little tease out there. We got some big news coming, so do stick around for that. And if you want to, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Also, hit that notification bell so you can be the first to get some new news. It's going to be big, y'all. Some people in a certain state are going to be especially excited. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.